Welcome back to episode 9 of Little Rock Ridge. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? Oh wait, I can't hear you. We'll go with the bad news first because that makes most sense, and I probably would have ignored you if you suggested the opposite. Unfortunately, due to real-world commitments and time constraints, Coaster Monkey Studios, ThemeWorks and Chant can no longer contribute to the park. However, time for the good news. There are 2 super secret special guests still to come. One of those people will be making an appearance today. I wish the reveal were more exciting, but their name is in the thumbnail. With over 35,000 subscribers on YouTube, PaulsLey barely needs any introduction. Whilst he started off in Planet Coaster, he has now become one of the most popular Planet Zoo creators on the platform, with his fantastic tips and tricks videos, the extremely popular series Zooable, and much more. PaulsLey was tasked with creating a skin for the Hellion Ring, and my goodness did he deliver. Over to the legend himself to present his build.
So, I received an inbox on Discord from Moomin asking me if I would like to join a collaboration project, and I often get random inboxes from people, and in all honesty 9 times out of 10 they just get binned. I reply, say no thank you and stuff, but Moomin massively piqued my interest, saying that there was going to be quite a few other people in it. I really like collaborations where there's quite a lot of people. And you might take a turn or something rather than one backwards and forwards. But then the mention of the Western theme came up, and if you've followed me on like Planet Coaster, there's not a lot out there from me, but Western is definitely the kind of thing that I really enjoy. So instantly I was like, do you know what? I think this could be something that I'll do. So he mentioned a few names of people. And in all seriousness, I went and spoke to a couple of those people before I agreed. Like Plastic Swans and stuff. I massively value the opinion of sort of these other creators and what they were up to and how it went and stuff. And yeah, I started to dig around on Moomin's channel and I was well up for it. So then the fun part came where he said, "Oh, by the way, there's no DLCs and there's no Theme Maker's Toolkit." Now, the Theme Maker's Toolkit wasn't really a big issue for me. I don't really use it, in all seriousness, in Planet Coaster. I have a feeling if it came in Planet Zoo I would, but yeah, it just wasn't something that really interested me. But the no DLC was a big hit for me, and especially for the Haunted pack, or the Spooky pack, should I say, because when I think of Western themed, I think of like dark charred wood, rundown, like saloony, Western, Red Dead Redemption, Back to the Future 3 sort of areas, and the Spooky pack had massive amounts of that in, so it was one of those where it was like, okay, so I've got to use pieces that are already in the game, and unfortunately, compared to Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster has a lot of colour changeable objects, so it didn't work out too bad. Now, the build, again, when he said you're going to do a flat ride, I thought, ooh, fantastic. And instantly I got it in my head that I would use a hyper jump, and it didn't occur to me that someone else might have already picked it. But anyway, I was given a choice, and we went for the ride, obviously, that you're probably seeing now. Obviously, I'm not doing the voiceover while you're doing it, but I wanted to go gimmicky, and if you've followed anything, I love gimmicky stuff. So, like, if I go to a theme park or a zoo, I really like to feel immersed in some like gimmicky theme, and it started to make me think of, like, I've been watching some videos lately on this new Super Mario world in Japan. I've watched some videos on this fake Futurama world, that they like a theme park, and I thought to myself, I really want to get a bit gimmicky. So I was thinking Western and what could sort of fit with this ride, and Revolver, it just sort of hit me like right in the face as the right thing to do. So as per most of the stuff I enjoy doing, I love sign making and bringing things in like that. So I made some ammunition and some rounds, and I made the Revolver logo as well as the words using the stenciling onto a screen. And then I thought, well, we should really make this more than just a ride. So, I made the building as nice as I could. I love building on a grid. People who've seen anything I do know I love building on a grid. So I put it on a grid, I put some other buildings to the sides and stuff just to try and take it from looking like a super square building. Lots of custom things. I really wanted to dig into it because, let's face it, some of the creators in this park are like the best Planet Coaster creators that have ever existed. So it was a bit of a challenge and a little bit daunting going into it at first, thinking, oh my god, some of this stuff is spectacular and how am I going to live up to that? And so I really wanted to do something a little bit different, and yeah, I'm very happy with how it came out. But the one thing I really wanted to do was sort of a when I was younger, the theme park near my house was called Southport Pleasureland, and they had these little water gun things down by the Traumatizer, which was the roller coaster. And you would put 20 pence in, obviously they're about £5 these days, but you'd put 20 pence in and it would squirt water out of this little gun and you'd hit the targets and stuff, and you didn't really win anything, but it was something that I really, really enjoyed as a kid, and I thought I want to bring something like that into here. So that is what we did, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Fortunately, the targets are in the base game, so we could definitely use them and stuff like that. But yeah, foliage and stuff, my inspiration came from all the stuff around me. I wanted to blend it in, so I tried to use the same foliage and things that everyone around me had used. And yeah, honestly, I am quite happy with how it came out. It was a bit of a relaxing change for me to be able to build without recording. You know, this wasn't for me to record. I just really enjoyed getting into it. It was tricky to go from Planet Zoo UI to Planet Coaster and the menus and stuff again. But yeah, hugely enjoyed it. So yeah, huge thank you to Moomin for reaching out. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and also a huge thank you to all the other creators for everything they put into it, because it definitely gave me inspiration when I went in to be able to try and pull something that would closely even get near some of the fantastic things that everyone else has put in. So yeah, huge thank you to Moomin and everyone else.
What an incredible creation and wonderful addition to the park. With this space next to Nerd Chacho's superb Flawless, I wanted to keep it fairly open, as to not overcrowd the area. I created a plaza using the castle flat roof pieces before starting work on a little grab and go unit. I placed a gulpy soda and connected it to the main path. I adjusted the roof pieces slightly just to cover the path. I decided to go with a rounded building, so I placed 2 planks to create the circle's diameter before copying the pieces around until they all connected. I moved the whole thing into position and then flipped and recoloured a few of the planks to avoid repeating textures. I used the 2 metre planks for the front and made the same adjustments as before. I added some columns to the hut and then popped a sign on the front. Over here in the UK, we rarely use the word soda, so I went with something way more exotic instead. I used decking for the roof and then added further columns for support. I copied the same style roof from across the way using the metal roof pieces and extended the columns. It's theming time! I added a whole bunch of Western props. I know, I never cease to amaze. Moving back over to the park entrance, we still need to block some more sightlines. But don't worry, this is the final edge that needs exterior work, for those of you who are tired of me doing non-theme park stuff in a theme park game. I decided to build a lovely little farm cottage, maybe lived in by an employee, or perhaps a livid old man who screams endlessly at passing traffic. I flattened out the ground and then replaced the concrete with dirt. I created a small 1 meter stone wall to surround the property. As always, I worked from reference, trying to match materials as best I could. For the house itself, I decided to use the castle walls. Using the castle pieces for something besides a castle? There's clearly no end to my madness. I gave it a scalloped roof and then filled in the rest of the wall pieces. The selection of chimneys in the game aren't the best, but I went with the rough brick chimney, which I think worked quite well. My original plan was to use a rough brick pillar to continue the chimney down the wall, but Frontier didn't think it was a good idea to complete all of the build sets, so my dreams were crushed. Because I'm a genius, I used the bottom edge of the chimney in various rotations instead. In case you're watching, Frontier, you're an incredible company, and yes, I would like free stuff, including early access to Planet Coaster 2, which is definitely under development, right? I raised the ground ever so slightly to create a grass patch. After copying the chimney to the other side, I added windows and doors. I knew I wanted to add some ivy to the house, but not this weak-ass 2D ivy that comes in the wall climbers category. I thickened it out with a selection of various other bushes sunk into the wall to create a nice full ivy. I added windows to the sides of the cottage and some skylights to the roof. I surrounded the house with oak trees, some sunken into the ground as usual to completely block sightlines. I created a nice little garden and finished off the perimeter with a few more bushes. And there we have it. A fantastic new ride, lovely little plaza, and a bit more exterior completed. What's happening next week, I hear you ask? Well, you'll just have to wait and see, won't you? Okay, bye now. Say goodbye, PaulsLey.
Goodbye.